I've got the new microphone.
But it's not plugged in.
Is it not? Am I not using it? Let me select it from the options.
How's that, John?
It's definitely less echoey.
Yes, that's wonderful.
So you sound much better now.
That's what we wanted, me to sound better.
Now we just got to get you to look better.
This is Sheer Isolation. It's presented by Kieran Moore in Trowbridge and John Ponting in Cricklade.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is Sheer Isolation. It's our first Sheer Isolation of 2022. I am John Ponting in Cricklade, and my friend Kieran Moore is over in Trowbridge, hiding under his Christmas cards.
I am still in Trowbridge. I haven't left.
And you never will, because once you go to Trowbridge, that's it.
Not for at least another 10 years.
Kieran, it does have to be noted that you do sound much better today.
I'm so pleased. It was a Christmas present. I've got a new microphone. It's a Mackie. And we were just discussing how the technology inside these mics is amazing compared to, 10, 15 years ago, even 20 years ago. The advances in technology is amazing because it only cost me 40 quid.
You just said it was a present, and now you've just said how much it is. Was it a present to yourself?
It was a present for myself. Yeah, I bought it for myself.
But for people who are joining us for the first time, welcome. Purpose of our show over the next half hour, we'll be promoting the local music and art scene. We'll play a couple of tunes from some local artists, have a chat to a person in the industry, and we'll just have a little natter ourselves, talking about things such as any gigs. It's probably a bit too early in the year, Kieran, but have you been to any gigs or events in the last week?
You know what, actually, funny you should say that. I did go to a gig because obviously I work in a venue. And it was a songwriters circle with 3 musicians. And I don't know if you've ever been to a songwriters. You've talked about it before, actually. So I know you've been. But the musicians take it in turns to talk about a song and their methodology, and then they play a song. And it's a really nice event. So you can get under the skin of a musician. I would like to see more of these with more established musicians, so that we can understand the music that we love a bit better. But nevertheless, we had a lady called Emma Webb, she runs a choir in Trowbridge, and she does songs with producers all over the world. And some of her songs get like 100,000 streams. So she's doing all right out of it. But she played a track like on a guitar, like a demo. And then she played the produced version with a producer. And you can really see sort of the way it sounds in her head, and then the way it kind of gets realized. And just fantastic. Really, really fun event. So yes, I've been to 1 gig so far.
Yeah, that's one more than me. Unless you count the New Year's Day Sound of Music sing-along that happened in my house, but that was just 2 of us. Today's guest, or this week's guest, I should say, is a sound designer, Joseff Harris.
Yes, sound designer. He was a very recent friend and acquaintance I made whilst working on a project at Trowbridge Town Hall. And he's an absolutely fascinating guy. And I just wanted to talk to him about being a sound designer. So not an engineer, not a producer, not this, not that, a sound designer. And he'll explain to us in a moment what that's all about.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. But first off, we will play a tune. And I think you have picked a track in line with some very exciting news from Trowbridge Town Hall.
Yes. So I picked the debut single off Andy Bell's album. Andy Bell is the original frontman and singer in a band called Ride from Oxford, who created a genre known as shoegaze, along with some other bands like Jesus and Mary Chain and My Bloody Valentine. And he produced an album called Nowhere, which was a seminal album. He was latterly in Oasis as their bass player, and he sold 14 million records with Oasis during his time in Oasis. And he's now doing a solo career as Andy Bell's Space Station. And this is a track called Something Like Love.
Justified in memory. So say what you feel, but don't confuse your memories with something real. Remember days of chasing and reeling, playing tunes to block out the factories. lost in a reverie of future days. La 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 la, it's all been seen somewhere before me. Now time's not on our side. See the flicker as a fire starts to burn. It's not enough. Burn down the world for me. Use a mirror to remember and look back with something like love. I wonder why and how it was we became so jaded. You should never wish your time away. Now the picture's faded. No more days of chasing, reeling, playing shoes to block out the bad dreams. Lost in a reverie of future days. La 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 la, it's all been seen somewhere before, babe. Now time's not on our side. See the flicker as a fire starts to burn. It's not enough. Burn down the world for me. Use a mirror to remember and look back with something like love. La 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 la. It's not enough. Burn down the world for me. Oh, see the flicker as a fire starts to burn. It's never enough. Burn down the world for me. Use a mirror to remember and look back with something like love.
So yes, Andy Bell, he's playing Trowbridge Town Hall on Sunday the 6th of February. That gig has almost sold out. Needless to say, it's got quite a lot of interest due to the high-profile nature of the artist. So we're very happy to have him. I'm very excited. I'm going to fanboy a little bit.
I bet you are. I know you're very dedicated to Trowbridge, but is this a one-off gig or is he on tour around the region? Are there other dates that people can see him at?
He's on tour across the country. I think it's like an 8 or 9 dates tour. So it's not a massive tour, but it's part of Independent Venue Week, an organisation that do shows up and down the country for loads and loads of independent venues. And they usually, very typically, they put big artists in small venues. And so we're very lucky to have Andy Bell, but he is playing elsewhere and you can catch him across the country. So just look up your dates.
Wonderful. Thank you. And a nice little, a very nice gig for the town hall to get such a good name.
Fantastic gig. Yeah, I'm really, really, truly excited. Like I say, I can fanboy a little bit. So, and I will.
You fanboy as much as you need to. Do you know, I keep getting distracted by your Christmas card of Simon's cat. And then it occurs to me that's probably the one that I sent you because I got a pack of Simon's cat Christmas cards.
Should we check, John? Should we check? It's from John!
It is mine. There we go.
Yay! We love Simon's cat in this house. So that was a very well received card, John.
Oh, bless you.
What do you do with your old cards?
I make a note of who sent them to me.
Yeah. So
that I can be prepared for next year. And then they normally sit in my loft until the year later, where I will eventually burn them in a fire.
Burn them in a fire, John! The world is literally dying under the weight of CO2, and you're burning Christmas. Right, John, that's awful.
Just to justify myself, I've got an open fire, and some of them make a lovely colour flame if they're covered in chemicals.
I bet they do. Amazing.
Right, we'll move straight into the guest. As we mentioned in the opening link, it's Joseff Harris, who's Bristol-based sound designer, which are two words I hadn't really put together. But if you think of the kind of sound effects that you get if you go to a theatre and you get the wind howling and you get the doors slamming, obviously somebody's had to record those. You said you met Joseff while you were working on the Christmas Miracle on
Seymour Street.
Seymour Street, yes.
Yeah, it's very, very good bit of theatre. And he was just fantastic to work with.
Definitely. Really good interview.
Towards the end of the theatre show, there's this piano loop where he plays piano, and he actually recorded the piano that we have in the town hall. So he actually played it there and then. We recorded it in the downtime between sessions. So he was doing everything on the fly. He was working really hard. He's a little bit of a genius. I was really impressed with him.
My job role, to be honest, is always a fluctuating title, but is a composer and sound designer. So I work across theatre, short independent films, and audio as well. Usually main responsibilities are writing music for productions, films, audio drama, whatever, and also designing sound. So usually, I guess, traditionally you'd think of sound design as sort of, naturalistic sound effects, fitting it to theatre spaces, fitting it to headphones and stuff like that. But I guess I like working in the space between those two job roles where they sort of are running in tandem, I guess. So writing music that also fulfills a kind of sound design purpose as well.
You're effectively a musician yourself, aren't you, in your own right?
Piano and guitar is sort of what I learned growing up, and then I sort of dabble in a few other little bits and bobs. I wouldn't really say I can play other instruments that well, but I can sort of utilize them in sound design, and use them kind of in, hopefully what is more kind of interesting and innovative ways. But I've got a cello here, but there's if you ask me to play something on the cello for you now, there's no way I could do that. But I can blend it in to my compositions and stuff. Yeah.
So how did you get into doing sound design? So I presume you were a musician first and you want to be a famous rock star, and then sound design sort of came along afterwards. Is that fair, or did you always think, I want to make sound?
I always played in bands at school, and I went to university, but I didn't study anything to do with what I do now. So I went and studied ancient history, actually.
Cool.
And throughout that period was in a band, and we sort of did a little bit of touring and stuff like that. And I kind of thought that is what I wanted to do. I wanted to write music and play in a band. But then I actually realized that I don't know. By the third year of university, it was getting quite tiring, and decided not to pursue that. So then, really, actually getting into my job role now, I finished university and moved on a bit of a whim, to be honest, to Bristol, which is where I'm based now.
Very cool city, lots going on.
But I didn't really know too much about it. I'm sort of a country boy, so I didn't really know too much about Bristol. But my mate got me a job at the Bristol Vic Theatre, just in the front of house team. And again, I didn't even know, when I first got a job, I genuinely didn't even know what a matinee was, and I was like 23. I think I'd seen about 3-4 theatre productions in my life, and I just was like, I need to move out the countryside. I'm going to get a job here. And then I guess it was a process of just knowing that I really wanted to try and pursue something creative, but I didn't really know what that meant. So when I kind of got into the theatre world, there were lots of kind of mates around me that would be starting theatre companies, doing research and development projects, and being like, oh, Joseff plays a bit of music, can you come along and just trial some ideas and stuff? And really, fast forwards, it just kind of was all about learning on the job. So my first job as a sound designer, I think I really got like a couple of £100 and didn't even know really what the job was, but just learn about designing sound, and it was really bad, to be honest. But
You say that now.
it was just all about learning on the job. So yeah, getting a job at Bristol of it, meeting people that were making work, and then just slowly but surely finding out about these different job roles and sound designers and composers, and then I guess more importantly finding my version of that job.
So in my head, if a director is putting together some kind of stage production and they're coming to you, do they come to you, or do they treat you more as a composer in line with people who are writing the scores and the music, or do they see you more as a Foley artist or kind of someone who's kind of banging two coconuts together? Where do you kind of sit in between those two levels? I'm sure it's somewhere in the middle.
I think people know what you would get really from working with me by either looking at examples of stuff that I've done before, or if it's sort of more in a director approaches me and is like, we've got this show, it's about X and Y, we're interested in this, what's your take on it? Then usually actually me presenting back my ideas and my influences and stuff give it quite a strong, I often will present about that space in between composer and sound designer. So I would probably say, John, that it is more about treating me probably as a composer, but then when you're on a bit more of like the bigger jobs, you then do have a whole technical side that you're just trusted. I mean, you're trusted to deliver it all, but in terms of where your speaker's going to go, what level are they going to be, all of that, that's sort of like, I think you're just trusted that you will work with a technical team, to deliver that side of things.
What tools do you use to achieve what you're doing?
I guess the base of it is QLab, actually, which if anyone's listening doesn't know what that is what as far as I'm aware, any theatre show will run the sound through through QLab. So triggers that get cues that get triggered. Sorry. So that really is I guess is more of the final piece in terms of all audio gets put into QLab, and then I will use that. I use it in quite a creative way to develop how different layers will sit on top of each other for building sound. But in terms of when I get going, I will use a little recorder, not an instrument recorder.
Which you're going to show us now.
It's just a little Zoom H5, it's called. It's got a couple of microphones on the top, and a little interface in it as well, so you can track what you're recording. So that is probably like my best tool in terms of going out and capturing my own sounds. And I think on that, why it's really useful is you can obviously capture anything, capture naturalistic sound, so your birdsong, rainfall, cityscapes, all of that sort of stuff. You can use it to record sort of percussive things or melodic things, stuff like that. But I quite like using, going out and recording stuff that has a lot of texture to it. So like gravel or leaves or stuff like that.
See, Joseph, I don't want to sound like a hipster here, but I've got a Zoom H2 that I use for my recording.
Nice.
It's about 15 years old, but it works absolutely fine. Apart from I can't use the battery pack anymore. It has to be plugged into the mains. So what shows or what performances have you been involved with that people may be familiar with?
Maybe a show called Destiny that was written and performed by one of the writers of the show that Kieran and I worked on at Trowbridge Town Hall. So that is I feel very fortunate that show has been getting a lot of good. I think you might have had Flo on here before.
Flo was a previous guest. Yes, she was. She came and talked about the Christmas show, and she talked about Destiny.
Yeah, great. Well, I mean, I'm sure she would have said that. Been very fortunate that it's it's got a little bit of publicity, and it's hopefully got a second life to it as well. But that toured around the UK a little bit and was on at the tobacco factory in Bristol and at Trowbridge as well.
And caution.
Yeah. So that probably, for your listeners, they might have heard of that one. And then in terms of other shows, just to be honest, kind of focused really around the Southwest. It's a show. I did a show called A New Beginning at Kiln Theatre in London as well, which is a great space. So yeah, I don't really know. I never really know who's seen what I've done.
What advice would you give to somebody who's interested in recording sounds and building their skill set? How would you go about doing that?
It feels almost slightly like odd to me to answer questions like that, because I'm still learning so much, and I think that's probably the crux of it, that you just need to get the ball rolling. And if you want to learn how to record stuff, go out and just start recording stuff. You can pick up little microphones for so cheap now, or even just if you got a decent phone, they've got good mics. So do a little bit of teaching work where we just teach people to go out and record interesting sounds with their phones. So just get out and start recording stuff, and like really listen, I think, is a real big thing for me. We live in a world where it's so fast paced and all of our attention spans are diminishing by the day. So actually just to go out and listen to your environment and record it, I think can be really useful.
The last thing I was going to say is, Joe, how do people get in touch with you?
So my name, Joseff Harris, but Joseff, it's important to say, is spelled a little bit weirdly. So it's Joseff. So my email is all lowercase, Joseff Harris sound at gmail.com. And then my website, if you type my name in, hopefully my website should ping up as well. Things like Instagram, I make little bits of music content and stuff on there, and Twitter. So it should, because the name is a little bit weird, it should be up there in the Google searches if you put it in.
We always invite a guest to pick a track. So do you want to pick a song for us?
Yeah, so the song that I wanted to pick is called Canopsia by Kayla Painter, who is a also Bristol-based composer and audio producer. And I met her about probably 4 years ago. I used to run or head up a Bristol branch of a company called So Far Sounds that do lots of live music events. I had a great time with them, and I met Kayla at one of our events in a church where we did an electronic night, which was great. And she's brilliant, and we're absolutely nothing is confirmed, but we're hoping that maybe soon we'll get to collaborate on a theatre show, which would be great. But she's a brilliant artist, so Canopsia by Kayla Painter is my pick.
So that is a beautiful track by Kayla Painter. It's called Canopsia, and that was Joseph's pick. And it's a really nice dramatic instrumental piece, and it's got a wonderful video with it as well. And just watching the video, it made me think that I was watching some kind of European apocalyptic drama, something like what was that German one with the nuclear reactor? Was it Dark? So something like Dark, or maybe Los Revenants, something like that.
Oh, Los Revenants, that was amazing.
But yeah, Bristol-based composer, so go check her out. Okay, time for some news.
So news is gigs have come back with a bang. We have shows popping up left, right and centre. We've got a Revive live gig on Monday the 24th of January at the Pump in Trowbridge with a band called Grandma's House and Panic Shack, who are doing a co-headline tour. We played one of their tracks last year. They're now being supported. It's official. They're being supported by Life in Mono from Bath. That gig, despite being a Monday, John, is doing really well. I think it's sold about 25 tickets. It doesn't sound like much, but the venue only holds 70. So it's going to feel amazing already. So yeah, the gigs are back and people are back. We're all being sensible, but at the same time, we're now beginning to live our lives again. And it's quite an exciting time.
One gig I thought I'd mention. So over Christmas, bit of sad news. We lost the drummer of the Wurzels.
Oh yes, that was sad. Yes, yes. Corky did put a big post about it because obviously he played an awful lot with the Wurzels. They're one of those bands. They played the Cheese and Grain regularly. They played the Level 3 in Swindon. You know, they were one of those bands that did play an awful lot in the Southwest. Obviously, because they're a Southwest-based band.
Yeah, so that was John Morgan, who was drummer in the Wurzels. The Wurzels are still gigging, though, so they are playing, and Corky is supporting them in Gloucester in early February. I think it's the 5th at Gloucester Guildhall.
Fantastic.
So, the music must go, the show must go on, as I say.
The show must go on. It's what he would have wanted. I know it sounds like really cheesy, but, you know, no musician wants the world to stop for them when they pass. They want the music to bring people together, and so yeah, absolutely no doubt those will be special gigs for that exact reason.
Yeah. And one final thing I wanted to mention was the BBC Sound of 2022 going to a Bath artist, Pink Pantheress. I don't know if you're familiar with her. I didn't have a clue because she lives on TikTok and I'm far too old for that.
I don't know this person at all, but what I do know, John, is that Pink Pantheress pipped our favourite Wet Leg to that post because Wet Leg were nominated.
Wet Leg aren't local though. So for the purposes of this show, we should have been supporting Pink Pantheress. Oh,
Pink Pantheress. I've got her on YouTube. This is exciting, John.
She's already too big for you to book, Kieran. Don't worry.
Don't
even think about it.
I'm amazed, actually. That's so cool. We should play Pink Pantheress as our track next week.
we're planning a week ahead. This is unheard of in the history of sheer isolation.
We don't know who the guest is yet, but we've got the music nailed.
We need to call time on that one, Kieran. We are out of time. So thank you for listening, everybody. You can find us on sheerisolation.co.uk or email us sheerisolation@gmail.com. We will be back same time next week. Thank you for listening to us.
John.
Thank you for joining me, Kieran.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Toodle pippery to you. See you later.
Bye.
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 Bye.